Welcome back to another episode of the Andrew Roman Show. I'm here joined by the one and only Josiah. What's up, bro? This is my homie. This is my oldest brother, and but today you're a man. You're not just my brother. You're not just my bro. I'm interviewing you today because, look, this is y'all's favorite show.
Absolutely, bro. Okay. I saw the reviews.
Did you see the reviews?
They're insane.
Look, I'm not gonna pretend this is your favorite show. I'm just, again, I've said this before. Yeah. 5-star review, outstanding. What was another 5-star review?
Anonymous.
Anonymous.
Totally epic.
Totally epic. Yeah. One said groundbreaking. One said earth-shattering.
Yes.
What can I say? I'm not making these up. Yeah. I don't know. And but one of the reasons that at least I like this show, and hopefully you like it too, is because we talk about real topics.
That's right.
In a very real way.
I love it, man.
No flakers, no fakers. I don't even like flakes or flaking cereal. I don't even like that.
You don't like them? You don't like sucaritas, bro?
Okay, chill. Let's stop right there. Okay. What I mean is like the Kellogg's flakes, like the flavorless ones.
No.
If you don't know what sucaritas are, bro,
look it up.
That tiger's close, man. Me and that tiger, in my heart, not in real life, because in real life we were never allowed to eat that.
We cannot eat it.
Because it was just full of sugar. But besides the point is that we love talking about real topics.
For sure.
That you and I deal with. And one of those topics, we've talked religion, we've talked politics, is school.
Yes.
See, a lot of times, and I did this a lot growing up as a Christian, sometimes I have the temptation of doing that, is that we make little compartments of our lives. Mm-hmm. And faith is one compartment. It's the Sunday bucket, so like little buckets. School is a bucket, church is a bucket, work is a bucket, and God goes in the church bucket.
Yeah.
I don't know. Have you ever thought that way before?
I've definitely, I see what you're saying about the buckets, and I feel like before my teenage year, yes, it was like God was in the bucket, right? There was playtime bucket, there was school bucket, food bucket, the church bucket, and God was in it.
Some of y'all's food bucket, real man.
It's really.
Some of y'all's food bucket is a bucket of wings. That's what it is.
Yes, I know. Get some wings.
Mine is like that. But today,
definitely from what I was saying is that the teenage. But when I went into my teenage year, I felt like I had to really wrestle with the idea of like, okay, is God just in a bucket, or is he actually part of my life? And what I really love about God, and we see this throughout Scripture, we've seen it in our lives, is that he is a gentleman. He is a good friend. So he will not intervene anywhere you don't want him to be. So like he won't impose himself in an area that you do not want God to be in.
That's good. That's good. Pause that right there.
Yeah.
Okay, requote that. I just pause it so everyone refocus this. All right, say that again.
Here, before I say this, I need some accents in this show.
All right, yeah.
I like that intelligent accent you'd say. Like, I don't know, it's like...
I think it's British because all intelligent people are British. I'm pretty sure we've established that.
I love the Russian guy too.
The Russian person is good. He's good. He's slower, so it gets your mind thinking slower, more focused. So please start breaking that down as they start saying. I can't do Scottish there. Start breaking that down, would you? Would you start talking? You said when you were a youngster, you started thinking, how involved is God in my life?
Yes,
right.
Yes, and how God is involved in. And that God is like a good friend, like just like us as brothers. I can tell when you don't want me in certain areas of like in that moment, like for example, you're upset or something. I know just not to get in there, even though I want to help. Like a good friend would, he would give him space if he doesn't want to be involved. Sure. And I feel like God is always available. He's always there, and he always approaches us and calls us to him. But if we do not give him that space in our lives, he will say, okay, when you're ready, but it's on you, the consequences.
That's true.
Anyways,
and that's good because actually that provides great context for what we're talking about today. Because I feel like one of those buckets that a lot of people don't give God, they don't involve God in, is school.
Yeah.
Usually school is just seem like, here we go. Let's just go in this 12-year career path and then another 4 years and who knows how much more if you're like a doctor and a lawyer. And it just seems like something that's outside of God's his desires to be involved in, you know, and just to kind of talk about your school history and just your experience, because we really want to talk, man, y'all gonna be blessed by this. Y'all gonna be blessed. So share with us a little bit of your how was your early school experience like as a kid, and share with us that.
Well, school was difficult. I'm just gonna put that word on top of it, difficult. Preach. And I think a lot of people say, well, school's horrible, or like school's difficult. There are a few people that say, I love school. And I love you guys for doing that. Like, you are heroes for loving school, and you probably have great professors as well. But for me, it was very difficult. And I remember when I was younger, my mom would help me with my math, right, or my writing or my reading, and she was always perplexed why I was struggling so much in like reading, my writing, and especially math. Like, she would tell me this simple calculation, like 4 plus 4, and
44,
I would like,
right?
Simple, 44, obviously, and I would struggle through that, and I would just overthink it, and then she would give me something more complicated, and I would say it right away. So she was like, okay, I need to figure out why is Josiah having so much trouble, because you guys weren't having the same struggles.
No, I was
Andrew was Andrew's like genius, academic genius, and accent genius.
I can vouch for the accent part.
No,
but
the rest as well. But. And long story short, my mom took me to a learning psychiatrist or something like that just helps like with learning ways of learning patterns. That's the word I wanted. And they determined that I had a form of dyslexia.
Dyslexia? Who? Like, can y'all define that? Okay, I don't know if I know what it is, right? Because I'm your bro. Yeah. But a lot of people don't actually know what that is. Can you go a little bit into that?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, there's several types of dyslexia. And if you know anything about dyslexia, you would know that the most common form of dyslexia, that's like flipping words around. So they would read the word backwards, kind of type of thing. And that's the most extreme form of dyslexia. But there are other ones, and the one they prescribed me with, or they wrote down, is that I have visual spatial dyslexia.
Visual spatial. Whoa.
Yes.
Whoa. Okay.
It sounds like
so like
visual spatial.
Dyslexia. It sounds very out here. Very Yeah, I'm a little lost. I'm a little lost with that term. I need someone small for that.
There you go.
Yeah, it's beyond Andrew, that's for sure. So define that a little bit.
Well, how I understand it, and because I've always thought this way. I've always thought in this form, it's like telling somebody who can't see color.
Hey, describe red.
Red. It's just
or whatever color.
It's hard. See. But how they explain it is that say you have an empty room. Okay. And 4 walls, blank walls. And everyone has this ability, but mine is more enhanced towards this direction. So, for example, you have a room and everyone can see, okay, well, I'm going to put the chair here, and I'm going to put the TV here, and we're going to put this beautiful painting on this wall. And you can kind of envision it before it's there, right? So take my side and multiply that times 10. So
basically a superpower.
I mean, I can see kind of how it's going to look like, the colors, this positioning, the everything, and I have it so visually in my mind that anything outside of that becomes like, this is not how I envisioned it, right? And people can have it more abstract, and I just have it more, I guess, more clear,
more solidified, more enhanced, and that, like you were mentioning, that kind of, it's kind of like the pros and cons. You know, before this we were talking, it's, a blind person, they usually can hear better.
Exactly.
Right? Because they don't have eyesight, but their hearing is enhanced, and vice versa for someone who's
exactly
deaf,
the same thing.
So maybe your abilities for whatever, numbers or reading or writing is a little bit less, but other things are enhanced.
Yes, because that's the learning method I lean towards.
Okay. So that's a learning method.
So other people learn the other way. They learn through words and through writing and reading, and they get their information that way. Me, when I see, for example, just to give one more example, if I see a billboard on the road, I'll see the image right away. Like the words are irrelevant to my glance to the billboard.
So stop right there. That's where we disagree. So when I see a billboard, the words are crucial. That's like literally the first thing I see is words.
Yeah.
Words. So we'll drive by a billboard and then he'll be saying like, what type of design is that? And I'm like, what type of sentence is that?
Yes.
You know? Like, so we think differently.
Yes.
And I love those examples because a lot of times, you know, if this is your first time knowing what dyslexia is, then you're like, wow, that's really interesting.
Yeah.
Or maybe if you knew what dyslexia was, look, information is always great.
Yeah.
Learning these things. And how did that affect your academics? How did that affect because you mentioned it was harder for you to do what maybe for other people seemed easy. Did that affect your self-esteem?
Yes, to some extent. And honestly, I did not. It wasn't as like a tragic or like super, scarring that I couldn't learn in these ways. It was more.
It's okay, Josh. Yeah, you can. It's okay. Come on, y'all. Take them in y'all prayers.
But there were very difficult moments in school where all my friends were done with the class and I still had to finish the test. And I think dyslexia is more well known now in academics and schools, and they give room for that for people to have more time or stuff to go through that. But when I was in school,
in your dark ages,
the dark ages, they did not have that accommodation.
Yeah.
And so if I was taking too much time in an assignment, the professor would assume that I did not know the subject, or I did not do my studying, or that I did not work for it. But really, it's just I needed more time. I just simply needed more time, and I knew it. And I think that was the hardest thing, and just being disregarded that way, and then feeling to myself, well, I guess I'm just not smart enough, or I'm just never. Or take that away. Let's say I am smart, but I'm never going to be good at school.
So let's do that. Have y'all ever felt that way? I felt that way.
Yes.
Definitely. And I think school is just kind of like, school's for the nerds and that's about it. Because for everyone who doesn't wear glasses, apparently, no one can do school, Which obviously that's not true.
No.
And, but I think something important that you said, it's kind of, it made you feel like, I'll never be good at this.
Yes.
And I'll never, but on the other side of the coin, you mentioned, some of your superpower abilities were enhanced.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
How important was that for you to find something that connected with the way that you were learning, like graphic design?
Yeah. So just without thinking, I just started inclining through more creative stuff. And I remember in the computer, like I remember finding PowerPoint and just being like amazed about this software. Or paint.
Back
I would
in
just
the day, y'all.
Windows Paint. Remember that? And then remember the little arcade game in the Windows computer?
Which one was that?
It was like a little
the bomb one?
No. It was like a pinball.
Yes.
Pinball in the Windows.
It was in the Windows computer.
You remember? You just like ding 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 ding.
Yes.
That was the best game.
The space theme.
Yes. That was the best game. So that and PowerPoint were like my favorite things. And I remember creating an animation, like a whole like a little short film in PowerPoint.
Dude, I remember.
I drew like a penguin.
Like Club Penguin. If y'all remember Club Penguin,
remember Club Penguin?
Huge.
It was like
it was huge. At least
online mini clip type of thing, and so.
But you were creating stories with it.
I was creating stories and animating it with the software in PowerPoint. So my parents saw that and they're like, "Okay, we need to give him classes." So I started taking classes Flash animation, and I loved it, and I went to a class for 6 months, and then I just picked up the rest. And I started going through there, and I started learning the more visual, like Photoshop and stuff like that.
Right.
But I think the hardest thing for me was just taking that what I felt like I was very good at, and saying, well, this is just for fun, but the real world requires reading, writing, academics. Like, so I always had this feeling like, oh, I'm never going to survive school. Like,
right. At that point, when you went into those schools, you were still doing school. Like
I was still doing school, yeah.
And that's something important. That's something important is that he realized he wasn't good at it, but you still grinded. Like
I still grind it, and
you still did it
because in a way I had to. But for in any time I could have gone through that the bad way, like kind of like just like whatever, like I'm gonna fail every class and just say, oh well, dyslexia, you know, like, and I'm just gonna put that tag over myself. But I didn't want that. I wanted to, like, I knew that I had a different method of learning, but I was gonna still try to learn all the material and all that and try to go through that
and rise above it. And I think that's a huge reminder to all of us. We're so used to being labeled as someone who's smart, someone who's not very smart, someone who, you know, if you play sports, obviously you can't be academic. I don't know. There's so many labels that people put on us and we put on ourselves. But I think it's such an encouragement, like you said, even when you were still figuring out the way that was easiest for you to learn, you were still grinding it and you were still like rising above it. And that's we really want to encourage you. Like, it doesn't matter what people have said about you. You can still come out of that and rise above it and not have to say, oh, school's not for me because someone said I was dumb, so I'm going to quit. No, there's so much opportunity. And you mentioned that, it was really cool, this graphic design, but you were still kind of like in dread of the real world of academics. And just thinking like, I don't know if you can do college, and you ended up going to college.
Yes, I did.
How did that work
going
out?
to college. So before I get into that story, something that it just dawned on me that is that you don't need to like something to feel fulfillment on. And let me
say it again. Keep going.
You don't need to like actually. The thing that fulfills you is not necessarily the thing that you enjoy. And that's just another way of saying it, right? That's a dyslexic way of flipping it around, right?
There's good folks. Yeah.
But, and I understood that more as I was going through school, that even though I didn't enjoy it, I still was learning stuff that was finding fulfillment in music, especially. Like, I started doing music, and I still struggled understanding the music theory of stuff, like how music worked. But if brought fulfillment, so although I didn't enjoy it 100%, the fulfillment was still there because I felt like God was calling me to that, right? He was saying, grind it. And so that's worth grinding, is worth working towards the things, even though you don't enjoy them.
Hey, and that's so important, folks. It's not all fun and games at the same time. You know, it's kind of like, boo, you do you, boo. Like, if you don't like it, boo, don't do it. Don't do it. Okay.
And that's our culture.
That's the culture that we live in, and a lot of times is not true. There are things that, as my favorite, one of my favorite rappers, Lecrae, says that you got to do what you got to do till you can do what you want to do.
Exactly.
It's just like that. And I could rap it for you. Look, I'm just kidding. No, I can't.
I love it.
And but tell us a little bit about your transition now into academics.
Oh yeah, yes.
And then how your faith started to play a role in that.
Absolutely. So I remember that I graduated high school and I was done with that, and I'm like, praise God, I'm done with school. I'm never going back, right? And I'm gonna start doing my own career, probably wedding, film, or stuff like that, and developing these other areas. But in the back of my mind, I was like, I still need to go to college. I just feel like I need to go to college. And my parents were just trying to encourage me to like go to college. And I remember I found this school in Virginia. It was Regent University, and they have a film academia, and it's a whole degree about film and TV production. And I'm like,
that's where you belong.
I kind of belong there, and I can get a degree. I'm going that way. But I was procrastinating. I really was. I felt like I was a little afraid of going there. I just didn't feel peace. And I remember a day we got a postcard to our house, and it was a college an hour away from our house, and it was a biblical studies college, and it's called the King's University.
Awesome.
And this is a university that started in California by Pastor Jack Hayford. And he founded a school, but they were transitioning and they were starting a campus here in Texas.
DFW,
DFW. And I remember my mom was like, do you want to go to the campus day? I'm like, oh, I'm not sure, but yeah, let's go. So we sit down in the the
campus day,
the campus
the
day orientation. Thank you.
Yeah.
We sit down in the orientation. The professor's there, and they don't really have anything established. Like they're just bringing new academia in, and professors are just starting to come, and the degrees are not defined. But I feel this peace. I feel peace.
Wow.
And I'm like, I think I need to come here. But nothing else made sense because it was a biblical studies school, and in Bible school,
not really cinematography.
No, not at all. And in Bible school, and I realized this dawned on me when I was actually enrolled in my first week, that it was mostly all reading and writing.
Y'all superpower. That's right.
No, this is not a super. That was my kryptonite. Like honestly, like
Exactly.
writing and reading was just like the kryptonite of dyslexia. Like it was what I dread in high school.
So, just a quick note of that, like he felt peace. And it didn't make sense.
It didn't make sense. Yeah,
it didn't make sense. And that's just a note that, like, I'm going to preach this, but that means that what you're good at doesn't mean you're called to that. You know what I mean?
Ooh, that's good, bro.
Look, and then what you're bad at doesn't mean you're not called to that. A lot of times, look, God's calling goes beyond our abilities.
It's true.
Because if you accept the calling, God will provide the abilities.
It's
and
true.
God provide the provision. And
It's
so
true.
you notice there was a lot of writing, a lot of reading. And I know we have a lot of people who again put school in a different bucket than God is. Like, okay, how can God even help me?
Exactly.
Help me in this. I don't know. I just got to write my paper, and that's
Yeah.
it. But how did? Because I mean, I know how it worked, and how did God help you in that time of academics, and also like financially and things?
Yes.
Like, how did that happen?
Yes. So it was a story that started at one semester, that turned into 2 semesters, that turned into 2 years, that actually ended up being a full bachelor's degree. Wow. And every step of the way, it was God's confirmation to continue. And when I signed up, I did not say, I'm going to get a bachelor's in biblical studies and theology. No, that's not how I went in. I went in thinking, okay, I feel peace with this. I'm going to step in faith, and God, you will provide the rest. And when I was in that first semester, I barely made it. Barely. I was like, I'm like super like
skin of his teeth,
sweating it, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to do one more semester and I'm going to finish the year. That was my goal.
Yeah.
I'm going to finish the year. Plus it was expensive. So like in Regent University, I had scholarships, and it was like covered basically. Here it was like, we don't have scholarships. We're pretty much a new school here in the DFW. And so we can't provide that. So I was freaking out because all my savings were like going down.
Yeah.
And I remember the second semester, my professor told us, okay, we want you to write, I want you to read a book every 2 weeks. And I need you to write a paper every week about what you're reading.
Yo,
in the paper,
man.
In the paper, it was like 6 pages in average. Like he's like minimum. He's like, I don't really have a page limit. I have a minimum, but not a limit.
But
so as long as you make
content,
sense,
as
long as you make sense. I remember my first paper. I gave it back, and he gave it back, and he gave me a 57. And I was like, I did all the requirements. He's
life
like,
coming at you like, boom.
Yes. And he's like, he's like, do you really understand what you're writing? Or you're just trying to write something?
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, I guess he got me on that one. And I remember that semester I was just really suffering through like writing papers like till 3 a.m., like just trying to do it. And I'm like, after the semester, I'm done. Like, I just can't do this anymore. Like, this is not what I signed up. You know, those times of crisis where like, I can't do this.
Midlife crisis.
Yes.
Right there.
And I remember that I finished that year, and I'm like, God, I can't continue because I don't even have the finances. And all of a sudden, someone literally donated for me to do another semester. And they put almost like, this is for your college. And I'm like, dang it. Like,
God, why are you so
I have to continue. And that's a way of God providing. And after that, after many, many struggles, I actually ended up graduating.
Wow.
And I graduated.
Congrats, man. That's awesome.
And thank you. And it's a celebration, because in a testimony of God's goodness, because my senior year, I remember my senior year is my hardest year. I had 21 credits signed up. I had to finish. I was a part-time job. I had a full-time church, and I had to write maybe like 84 pages worth in one class. And then my senior thesis, and it was insane.
Holy
and I remember
cow.
what carried me over was this verse that says, take captive every thought and submit it to Christ. Take captive. Literally, I feel like I had to take captive my thoughts and align them to Jesus.
Yeah.
He was going to perfect those thoughts.
Yeah.
And that was just something that I constantly was doing. When I was writing my papers, I was saying, Holy Spirit, help me write this paper. And help me define it and read it how you want me to write it.
Wow.
And then I ended up writing all the papers, graduating, walking the platform with a 3.7 GPA.
That's amazing.
That if you would have asked me in high school, like if I would have done that, there's no way. It was just God's goodness. And God provides the means.
Exactly.
For
and I think that's such an encouragement and takeaway, guys. Hopefully you've taken a lot away from this, as I have. I mean, your whole progress in academics, it was so inspiring for me, because as soon as he was graduating, I was kind of going into college and things. And but most important takeaways is that, like you said, God provides his plans. So if you're coming out of high school wondering where to go, put that before God and see where he provides.
Exactly.
Because just because you're good at something doesn't mean you're supposed to go there.
It's true.
And God will provide it. Like you said, little by little, God started providing it. And then your submission, because you submitted your desires to the will of God.
Yes.
And I can tell you, I mean, you're walking in your purpose 100%.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Amen.
But that came through obedience. So we want to encourage you to add God into your school bucket.
Yes.
You know what? Dump all your buckets and put him all God. Like just make God a part of all your life.
Absolutely.
Put him first in your school. He helps you. I mean, dude, I could say the same thing about writing papers and asking the Holy Spirit to help you. And man, it's awesome.
It's true.
It's awesome how much God cares about the details.
He does.
So hopefully your takeaway today was that God does care about your details. He cares about your schooling. Put it before him, because that's the only way that it can really prosper.
That's right.
So God has a calling for you. He wants
does.
to take you somewhere. You just have to listen to him.
Yes.
So hey, don't miss the next episode. This is the Andrew Roman Show.